Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel Tomcat Stitchery. I'm Whitney, and before we get to today's video, which is all about taking measurements and helping you select the correct size in order to get the best base for your fit, I wanted to come on here real quick because today is Friday and we do have a Feature Friday pattern, and that pattern is the ballad blouse, which is right here. It's just a wonderful button up the front blouse. You can do shirring, such as I did here, which gets a little stretchy, or just plain gathering. It's a really easy, it's great for layering, clearly, but it's just a really easy, if you've never made a button-up shirt before, this is a great gateway into a button-up shirt because you don't have the collar or anything like that. So if you've made like a woven blouse, if you've taken my garment class and you're ready now to move from like just a woven t-shirt to something with a little bit more pizzazz, this is a great next pattern for something like that. Anyway, the pattern is $5 today only, and it's just a really good one. So if you're looking for just an easy top, I don't even unbutton it to get it on. It just tosses over my head. An easy top to wear that has just a little bit of extra pizzazz. Great pattern to add to your pattern catalog. Use my code Whitney10 to get an additional 10% off that sale price. All right, let's head to the video. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel Tomcat Stitchery. I'm Whitney and happy Valentine's Day. I have got a great video for you today, and we're going to be talking about taking proper measurements and how to relate those in order to get a great base fit for our sewing patterns. Raise your hand if you are tired of making up a sewing pattern only to find out that not only does it not fit, but it like wildly doesn't fit. I'm going to help you select your size and we're going to talk about taking measurements. As a reminder, so I did a video, I think it was back in October, where I was talking through 5 things to take your sewing from homemade to handmade, just ways you can improve your sewing. And I've kind of broken each of those 5 steps into separate videos. So I've got one on pressing, I have one on interfacing. Is this the third one? Did I have something else in there? Anyway, I will leave all the ones I've done so far down below if you are interested in learning a little bit more about each of those 5 things in more depth. So today we're going to be talking about taking our measurements and how to translate those when selecting our pattern sizes. I find also with this, I teach a pattern fitting 101 course twice a year. It is a 6-week, well, actually a little bit longer than that, 6 modules that one gets released each week. You have access to the modules forever and ever. A wonderful, if I do say so myself, resource library on how to do a whole bunch of pattern alterations. Basically everything we talk about in the class, that gets updated a ton. And once you've bought the class, you get those updates. You have access to the entire thing. So any resource updates, and if you've purchased the class before, I've got an update coming to the resource library, a new one that's going to be a new tutorial that's popping up there. So keep your eyes peeled. We'll send out an email when that's updated. But anyway, we are opening the cart on Tuesday for Pattern Fitting 101. So you want to be in the know, stay tuned. If you haven't already, subscribe to the newsletter. There'll be a newsletter opening up. The cart will be open to sign up for the class from February 18th to the 28th, and then class will technically start on the 3rd. There's a community component there, which is kind of like Facebook, but it's inside the class, and that runs the minute you sign up in that sign up window all the way through. We usually take it, I can't remember exactly the date that whatever 6 weeks is from March 3rd, I can't remember the date, but we usually go at least 10 days after the last module has dropped, sometimes 2 weeks, depending on dates and stuff, for the community to be open. But it's a chance for you to get fit, advice from, if you're having a hard time determining, I think it might be this, it might be that, based on all of the information that is coming at you in the pre-recorded stuff in the class. And there's also lives that happen each week where I answer questions and give feedback and all that stuff, as well as giving feedback in the community as well. You're posting pictures, I'm saying, hey, you need a sway back adjustment or whatever it might be. Anyway, we fit a woven top, a knit top, a woven pant, and a knit pant in the class. And it's also a whole lot of fun. So that is the next step once you have figured out how to take your measurements. Taking your measurements gives you a great base, the correct base size for your patterns. Then we all have beautiful bodies that are beautifully, wonderfully made, and none of us are symmetrical. So sometimes we've got things that we need to tweak beyond picking the correct size. So that is the next step if you're interested in that. Okay, enough of that plug. Let's talk about taking measurements. I think that maybe I'm going to talk you through how to take your measurements. So just to make sure you're doing that properly. And then I'm going to talk, which is why I'm wearing what I'm wearing. And then I'm going to talk you through selecting your size and what to take into consideration when selecting your size. So first things first, every single pattern, sewing pattern, whether it is a big 4, whether it is an independent pattern, they all have a size chart that will tell you what size or sizes, sometimes we're grading between sizes, that you need to pick for your measurements. I cannot stress enough how important it is that you take recent measurements. If you are someone that sews I would say you want to at least take your measurements once a month. If you're someone that only sews, every 6 months or whatever, just every time you get ready to start a project, measure yourself before you pick your size. If you're someone that sews a ton like myself, I measure myself about every month, just to make sure that I am continuing to pick the correct size. And that gets me sometimes. Sometimes, you get into that groove where you're like, okay, the current clothes that I'm wearing are the itch to stitch size 8 with a D cup. But if I'm very inflamed and maybe put on a little bit of extra weight, and maybe my clothes are just stretching to accommodate that, but when I'm making something brand new, maybe it was better that I had moved up to the 10 with a D cup, for instance. Or maybe I am not inflamed and actually I need to be a 6 with a D cup, whatever the case may be. It's really great to take those measurements. Also, make sure you are replacing your tape measure every 3 to 5 years. They do stretch out. Even the non-fabric ones, even the plastic ones, they do stretch out. So if you want accurate measurements, just make sure you are replacing those 3 to 5 years. This is a cool slider. People will ask. This is a cool slider tape measure that I have. It makes measuring yourself really easy because when you put it around your body, it has a little snap on here that fixes itself like so, and then it's real easy. We'll pop a link. I got this at an Etsy shop. There's different ones, but we'll pop the link down below. Okay, when we are taking our measurements, if we're someone that has fullness at the front of our body, we need to take 4 measurements. If you are someone that does not have fullness at the front of your body, you only need to take 3 measurements. So I've got fullness at the front, boobs at the front of my body, so I am going to be taking 4 measurements. The first measurement that we want, that is important, is the upper bust measurement. That is this measurement right here, right up underneath your armpits, okay? Parallel to the ground. I can't really see in the viewfinder. I think it's parallel to the ground. Parallel to the ground, above the breast tissue. This is a great indicator for shoulders, making sure that you're picking a size that fits you correctly in the shoulders. If you are sewing a commercial pattern, this is actually the measurement you're going to use for your bust size, okay? It's not full bust. Even though the instructions tell you full bust to measure there, I don't know. I don't know if it's because of all the ease. I make a size 14 in McCall's, Vogue, Simplicity, all of them, because my upper bust measurement is a 36. My full bust measurement, I think, it varies depending on, I have to check, depending on my current weight and yada, 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 around a 36, sometimes 37. Anyway, that is my upper bust measurement, and that is the size that I sew in McCall's. Now, that usually means I have to do a full bust adjustment to fit here, but we'll talk about that more in a second. A lot of the independent pattern companies now have upper bust measurements as well. So they will, sometimes they'll say to pick your upper bust, based on your upper bust measurement. It's just a better indicator for shoulders, back, that sort of thing. And then we adjust for the boobs. So that's just kind of a good rule of thumb, okay? The next measurement that we are going to need is our full bust measurement. So this goes across the fullest point of our bust. Oh, one real quick thing on the upper bust. Some pattern companies do tell you to take this measurement without a bra on. I don't, because, and I find that I get the better size that way. even in the pattern company's patterns that suggest this, only because I'm never not without, I'm wearing all of my garments with a bra on. Like I take my measurements in the undergarments that I normally wear. That does, you know, that does make a difference. If you're someone that wears a slimming underwear, you're going to want to take your measurements in that because you want the clothes to fit correctly. If you're someone that just wears regular underwear like myself, you want to take your measurements in that. So wear the undergarments that you normally wear when you're taking your measurements. That can, especially with here, that can definitely vary things a little bit. But I'm never without a bra. I mean, I'm never wearing any of those garments without a bra. So I want, even if this measurement is larger with the bra on, I want that measurement because that's what is filling out that upper part of that top, dress, whatever it might be. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, second measurement, full bust. If you are someone that does not have fullness in this area, if you've had a mastectomy, if you just don't have boobs, for whatever reason, if you are male, whatever the reason, this is the measurement that you need. You don't really need the upper bust measurement. You just need your chest measurement. And that is, we're going right across the nipples, folks. That is the apex point of the chest. So again, right there at the nipples. And again, we want to make sure that our tape measure is parallel to the floor. I don't have a mirror, so I can't tell, but we want to turn to the side, make sure that that is parallel to the floor when we're looking at that measurement. Okay, that's going to be an important measurement to have, because if we are picking our size, and we'll talk about that here in a second, we might need to do a full or a small bust adjustment. So your sewing cup size, this is not bra cup size, is dependent on the difference between your upper bust and your full bust measurement. Okay, so a B cup is 2 inches difference between upper bust and full bust. You have a 1 inch difference, that's an A cup. If you have a no inch difference, then, you know, you just would take your full bust measurement and leave it at that. 3 inch difference is a C cup, 4 is a D, 5 is an E. So some patterns do have cup sizes and they walk you through that, but that is, and it's important to know this because we do need to make sure that our clothes are going over the fullest part of our body as well. The next measurement that we need is our waist. I don't pick any of my sizes based off my waist measurement, but this is important if we need to add to the waist of the pattern to make sure that it does fit, whether you are smaller in the waist or thicker in the waist. I'm thicker in the waist, but we are measuring this at the natural waist. So if you put your tape measure around and you do the I'm a little teapot dance, where you bend, that is your natural waist. It's typically, not always, but typically about 1/4 to 1/2 inch above your belly button. This is not necessarily your smallest part of your torso. So don't let that be, it could be a very full part of your torso. It just all depends on your body. But that is important because that's going to be where the waist of the pattern hits. And so we do want to make sure that we have enough room there, or if you're very small in that area, if you have a really good waist delineation there, then you're going to want to know that that's where the pattern goes in so that you get the shaping you want. And then finally, we've got our full hip. Typically, this is 7 to 9 inches below your natural waist, which is where we just were, somewhere in that vicinity. So if you are carry fullness in the top of your thighs, this is not where we're measuring. We are measuring somewhere through the midpoint of our hip. We are above crotch level, okay? This is going to be where you've got fullness of the fullest part of your bum, usually. But sometimes it can be just where your hips, my hips don't go out. I have very straight hips. But sometimes where that real big curve of your hip might be as well. If you want, put your tape measure away or together and then just start sliding it down your body. And when it gets the tightest, that's where you're at your fullest. That's just kind of a good rule of thumb. And we are going to want to know this measurement for anything that is below the waist. So any pants, skirts, bottom halves of dresses, that's what we're going to want this measurement for. Okay? That is how we properly take our measurements. Not complicated. All right, so we've taken our measurements, and you also want to take your measurements in underwear. Obviously, I'm not going to stand here on the internet in my underwear, which is why I've got a fitted tank top and leggings on, just so you get an idea of exactly where things are hitting. So that's why I'm dressed the way I'm dressed. Maybe I'll go for a jog afterwards. Anyway, once we have these measurements, now it's time to pick our size. Like I mentioned, anything above the waist, so if we're making a top or the top half of a dress, because you may need to grade between sizes, that is not uncommon, we are going to be picking that size based on our full upper bust measurement if we have greater than a 2-inch difference between upper bust and full bust, okay? This is for most patterns. Again, there are patterns out there that do draft for different cup sizes, and they will say that on their size chart. They will say that in the sizing part of their website, or they have option for cup sizes. For instance, Itch to Stitch has A through double D cups. She walks you through that when you're picking your size as well. Some companies have like a standard bust and a full bust. Love Notions, for instance, does a 2-inch full bust adjustment for a fuller bust on their patterns. So you definitely want to read the instructions, especially when you're using a new to you pattern company. But most pattern companies, if they don't talk about having cup sizes, or they don't specifically say we draft for a D cup or we draft for a C cup, then they draft for a B cup. That is the general rule of thumb, which means they draft for a difference of 2 inches from upper bust to full bust. So if you have a 2-inch difference from your upper bust to full bust, you can go ahead and pick that size based on your full bust. If you've got a larger than upper bust, larger than 2-inch difference, so 3, 4, 5, you want to pick your size based on your upper bust measurement plus 2 inches, right? Because it's been drafted for a B cup, meaning it's expecting that full bust to be 2 inches larger than your upper bust. Again, with the independent pattern companies, a lot of them do list upper bust measurements, and then if that's the case, go off that measurement. But if they don't, if they just list full bust, you want to pick the full bust size that is 2 inches larger than your upper bust. Okay? You will have to do a full bust adjustment. That is just the nature of having large breasts. But that just gives you a better idea for fit in the rest of the garment. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. And then what we're going to want to do is we'll have to do a full bust adjustment of some sort to get it to fit us. And we'll talk about adjusting here in just a second. If we are picking sizes for our pants or a skirt or the bottom half of a dress, unless it's a full skirt. If it's a full skirt, who cares? We just need it to fit correct in the waist, and there you go. Waist adjustments are so easy, folks, so don't worry about your waist at this point in time. We are picking our pants, our fitted skirts, fitted dresses based on that full hip measurement. And then we are either grading up or down to get to the waist measurement that we need. If you are someone that has to do a full bust adjustment, that actually gives you more room at the waist as well. So you don't have to take that back out. It's easy to take that back out if you don't need the extra room at the waist. But if you do need the room at the waist, it makes it really easy to add that, which works out well for me because I carry fullness right here, as you can probably tell. But, you know. Anyway, that is what we're going to be doing. So pick based on your hip size. That could mean, maybe if you've got a lot of fullness in your lower belly here, it might mean having to do a full belly adjustment. There's other adjustments that you can do to get to the comfortable waist measurement, but picking your great bust or great base size is going to be picking that size based on that hip measurement. And then we're adjusting, doing some alteration to get to the waist measurement that we need. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if it doesn't. I'm happy to answer some questions. Again, if you're like, well, I don't know if I need a full belly adjustment, or how do I do a full bust adjustment? Absolutely. I'm linking the pattern fitting all the details down below. There's a whole page, answers a whole bunch of questions. So I'm going to leave that down there for you to peruse if that's something that you're interested in. All right. The final thing that I want to talk about when picking your size is the importance of looking at the finished measurements of the pattern. Again, the independent pattern companies are fantastic for having a size chart and then a finished measurement chart. Depending on the type of garment, I don't look at finished measurements as much if it's a knit pattern, like for instance, this knit top that has clearly a lot of negative ease because it's very fitted. I don't look at finished measurements there just because I have no idea how much negative ease, sometimes they'll tell you, but how much negative ease they've taken into effect. I'm just picking my size based off that size chart. But if it's something that it's woven or it doesn't have that knit factor and isn't drafted for something with negative ease, I am looking at those finished measurements. Ease, maybe you're not familiar with that word, is the difference between your body measurement and the measurement of the garment. So if we're looking at those finished measurements, we want to make sure that we have at least 2 inches of ease at the bust, 1 inch of ease at the waist, and 2 inches of ease at the hip. You can have more than that if it's a very loose and flowy garment, that's fine. Sometimes that does allow us, if we are larger busted, let's say you have a 3-inch difference between upper bust and full bust, If it's a looser top and it's got, 4 inches of ease built into the bust, you probably don't need to do a full bust adjustment because you've got plenty of room there. You just want to make sure that you've got enough room that things aren't pulling. So that's my general rule of thumb: 2 inches of ease at the bust, 1 at the waist, 2 at the hip. So looking at those finished measurements will help you decide, okay, at the waist, how much do I need to, the size chart says that this size is drafted for a 32-inch waist, but my waist is 36 inches. Well, now I'm looking at the finished measurement of the waist of this top, and the finished waist measurement is, 39 inches because it's a loose top. Okay, then I'm fine. My 36-inch waist will be fine. I don't need to do anything to this pattern. Does that make sense, hopefully? When you're looking at the commercial patterns, so your McCall's, your Vogue, your Simplicity, all those, you will find they are getting better about putting finished measurements on the back of the envelopes, but they are always printed on the pattern. They will have like a little crosshair at like the apex, at the waist, and at the hip, and they will list the different sizes and the finished measurements there, so you can pick your size based off of those. That's where you find those finished measurement numbers. Anyway, make sure you look at those finished measurements. That will make a world of difference because, especially with the commercial patterns, they are famous for putting way too much ease. So you may think, okay, I need to make the size 18 based on this size chart. And then you look at the finished measurements and you're like, there's 9 inches of ease at the bust. That is way more than I need. Whereas a 14 only has 4 inches of ease, or whatever it might be. And you may decide, you know what, I'm going to try the 14 and size down. Often sizing down on those commercial patterns is the right way to go. So yeah, definitely take a look at those finished measurements. Okay. That is it for today, folks. I hope that this has been helpful in not only taking your measurements, but helping you pick the correct size, because that's where it all starts, right? Like if we pick the wrong size, we are off to a bad fit just right from the beginning, and things can just go awry from that point on. But if we can start with the correct base size, then our tweaks and our little alterations that are just for our individual beautifully made bodies are all much smaller and much easier to ascertain and to figure out what even needs to be done. So starting with that base size is the first hurdle in perfecting. Nothing's perfect, guys. Getting great fit. Let me know if you have any questions down below. If you enjoy this type of content, this more educational tutorial type of content, and would like to leave a little tip on the channel, you'll notice that there is a button now below the video that says thanks. And if you click on that, it's like a tip jar. You can put as much in the tip jar as you would like. But all of that goes back to just help with the supplies and the equipment and stuff that we use to film these videos and tutorials. All right, guys, that's all I've got. Leave any questions you have down below, and I will see you guys next time. Happy sewing. Get some sewing in this week, and I hope it's warming up wherever you are. Bye.